Alrighty then. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Matthew Baker of Beautiful New York Tours. A lady from the Midwest who has never been to New York except on a layover at an airport asked me to do a piece on the birth of Broadway. Now that is a great topic. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the things that brought me to New York. It's also a huge topic, far more complex than can really be covered in a little 5-minute video, but we'll do an introduction. Broadway itself is, of course, a street. And it's not just any street. It is the longest street in the United States, covering the entire length of the island of Manhattan at an angle, then crossing a bridge, turning into a highway, and winding up in Albany. It began as a Native American cattle path, so it's actually older than New York City itself. The Broadway Theater District, which is what most of us think of when we hear the name Broadway, began in 1895 with the first of 5 theaters built by a cigar manufacturer who was enjoying a second career as an opera impresario. His name was Oscar Hammerstein, and he could not have known then that his grandson, Oscar Hammerstein II, would, together with his partner Richard Rodgers, become one of the most legendary figures in the history of Broadway musicals. Rodgers and Hammerstein's groundbreaking musical Oklahoma really signals the beginning of the Broadway musical as we think of them today. Theater historians will always divide Broadway history into before Oklahoma and after Oklahoma. It was the first musical to borrow from opera, essentially, in the sense that the dramatic action did not stop for a song. The songs were used to enhance characters and plot and move them forward. It was also the first musical of its kind to sacrifice star power and the box office that comes from that in order to cast actors appropriately to their characters. Today that seems obvious, but it was revolutionary in 1943 when Oklahoma opened. So it was not the type of musical that would play on Broadway beforehand with, splashy chorus numbers and, lots of, girls in carefully choreographed lines and things like that, all supporting a charismatic star who was there to sort of coast on his personality, or her personality as the case may be. It was really a very different type of musical drama. The Ziegfeld Follies that had held Broadway in sway for 40 years were on their way out, and a new type of performance was on its way in. Now, of course, theater and theatrical performance in the U.S. and in New York existed long beforehand. We really need to go all the way back to what is now the financial district, to the New Theater, which was a converted warehouse back in 1732, to see the beginnings of professional theater in New York City, with a production of George Farquhar's The Recruiting Officer. But the beginnings of American theater in New York City probably date to around the beginnings of the career of Eugene O'Neill. Eugene O'Neill really ushered in modern American theater. Before O'Neill, theater in the U.S. was, Shakespeare and the classics, or Bible stories and morality plays, or on the flip side, grand guignol high melodrama. And O'Neill was the first modern American playwright to write serious, down-to-earth dramas about ordinary people. He would write about longshoremen and bartenders and weather-beaten ex-hookers and, people who had lived a little bit of life and maybe been a bit damaged by it, as he was, but whom he felt for and wanted us to feel for. And he's the first American playwright to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, and he is so far the only playwright to win 4 Pulitzer Prizes for drama. So theater and Broadway have a long time honored history. They are among the most popular activities that you can engage in New York City. They can be expensive, but they are very, very worth it because there really is no experience like it. I highly recommend it. I do walking tours of the Broadway Theater District. We talk about the history of the individual theaters, the fascinating people who performed there, and certain favorite stories about the trials and tribulations of various individual theatrical productions. So if you would like to take this tour once we are up and running in the tourism industry again, please check me out at Beautiful New York Tours. You can search Beautiful New York Tours on Facebook, or you can email me at baker.tours@yahoo.com. Again, that is baker.tours@yahoo. Thank you very much.